name it.
What's up?
As you know, not the only thing that's up in my world is sick children, internet connections that are making my life miserable. I'm just using Wi-Fi right now, so we'll see if it cuts out in the middle of it. And dealing with tech issues.
I've actually been using just Wi-Fi for the past several months after I switched over from Comcast to Verizon, and it's been working great. So,
well, I was using Wi-Fi with no problems, and all of a sudden I couldn't, like, it continuously would disconnect. Then I plugged it in with Ethernet, solved the issue. Now the Ethernet cuts out constantly. It's just, is there any more frustrating thing in the world than a tech issue where you're trying everything and it just is nothing's working, and you feel like there's nothing in life you feel more helpless in, I think, than this. Like you're just like, I don't know what to fucking do here. There's nothing worse. There's no worse feeling in life than feeling fucking helpless, and that's what I feel like right now.
I can relate to that. I mean, not the same issue, but with my job, a lot of what I do, it's you have to follow different like procedures. And this past week, I had to work in some areas that I haven't had to do things like maybe like once a year I have to do something. So I spend freaking half my day just trying to figure out what I'm supposed to do when honestly somebody else could just do it in probably 10 minutes. But I can't stand shit like that where I just know that I'm just wasting time. Like, it's so annoying.
I mean, I guess in my PR career, the half of it's that too, is you have to, like, I can't make anybody write anything unless I pay them a lot of money to do it. And that's that's called advertising, not PR. And it's like half the time too, the frustration there bubbles over, and that it doesn't matter what I do sometimes. There's not going to write about it. Well, anyway.
Well, we're not here today to talk about our frustrations. That's on our other podcast. It's called Our Frustrations. Make sure you search for it on your podcasting app. And
it's ARFUS for short. ARFUS. You know what? Not to be confused with the podcast ARFUS, which is for puppy people that like puppy play. Very sexual. No, I will say I'm very frustrated still with what's going on right now with the Israel and the Palestine protesters and shit I've seen today. I saw you commented on one thing I tweeted out, which we can talk about briefly. And then also this fucking main shooter, which... it's so aggravating to have to deal with this crap over and over again with these fucking mass shooters and the same circular arguments that accomplish nothing. But the one thing I just recently pissed me off right before we jumped on here is, it's like, so Nikki Haley's out there talking about how we have to redefine anti-Semitism as anti-Zionism, which is utter horseshit. So you can't say that the nation control. Oh, here you go. Perfect. Yeah, I'll read it. She said, "You can't fight anti-Semitism if you can't define it. Joe Biden and the left refuse to call anti-Zionism anti-Semitism. Never mind that there's also anti-Zionist Jews in abundance out there, by the way. As president, I will change the official federal definition of anti-Semitism to include denying Israel's right to exist, and I will pull schools' tax exemption status if they do not combat anti-Semitism in all of its forms in accordance with federal law. College campuses are allowed to have free speech, but they are not free to spread hate that supports terrorism. Federal law requires schools to combat anti-Semitism. Even that is bullshit, by the way. We will give this law teeth and we will enforce it. The United States of America will not use taxpayer dollars to fund anti-Semitism, period. The October 7th massacre and the ensuing weeks have proven that many of us have long known there is no difference between anti-Zionism and anti-Semitism. In order to combat anti-Semitism, we have to define it, and that starts at the top." So, your thoughts, Odie?
Yeah, so replace like anti-Semitism, or just replace the idea here with climate change instead. And just imagine someone on the left doing the exact same thing and pulling funding from schools if they're not combating the climate change deniers who are spreading this dangerous ideology. The left and the right are just as bad as each other. And, it takes something like this for us to be reminded, it just come right back to control, right back to taking liberty away, right back to being tyrants. And it makes me, it makes me angry to see it, for sure. And that's not to say, like, some of these leftist protesters who are the way that that I look at this conflict in between the Palestine, it's between Hamas and
Yeah.
Israel. Um, I just don't want kids to die. That's basically where I fall on this. So let's not kill kids. Can we start with that and work back from there? Try to minimize the killing of children. But you do have the people on the left who are like, "Oh yeah, you just wipe out all the Israelis," which is just as bad as what a lot of the Israelis want to do to the
Right.
Palestinians. So there is some bad shit on college campuses coming out of these leftists who are ripping down posters of Israelis who have been kidnapped by Hamas. I mean, that shit's terrible, but they should be allowed to protest. It's free speech.
I mean, exactly, man. And yeah, I also agree. It's an insane and stupid thing to rip down posters of hostages. I also think, what's the fucking point of putting these posters up? That's just another form of propaganda, by the way. But because you're putting them up in America. Asshole John Fetterman put posters of Israeli hostages that were taken up outside of his office. Okay, that's just more propaganda, dude. What's that poster going to fucking do? Nothing, except it's just propaganda. But you shouldn't rip them
that's
down.
a good point.
You shouldn't. I mean, shouldn't be, ripping them down because of Israel and what they're doing, because those people are hostages. They have been taken. I mean, it's equally stupid to rip them down as to put them up. They're both stupid. But to your point, we're talking about now, when you talk about also, redefining anti-Semitism and anti-Zionism. No, anti-Zionism is essentially standing against what Israel has done, what they're doing, what the state of Israel. If anything, anti-Zionism sentiment is far more fair than anti-Semitic sentiment, and any thinking person can see the difference between those two. And to define it as such, as saying it's anti-Zionism, okay, so now anybody who says Israel does anything wrong is an anti-Semite, because that's what they've been saying for years, right? If you criticize Israel, you're an anti-Semite. It's absurd. It's absurd to give them. They're already this gifted class of statehood, right? An ethno-state that nobody seems to be able to say boo about, gets all of our money, seems to be able to kill at will without any condemnation, or else, they try to get you fired if you're the UN secretary speaking what is very clearly a rational perspective on the denial of humanitarian aid, the killing of civilians, the bombing of churches. And of course, Justin Amash had lost family members in that church bombing where Israel blew up a fucking church. And yet that's anti-Semitism to say that, according to Nikki Haley, and to protest it on campus. It's disgusting.
She's the worst. She is John McCain. I mean, it's Tom Woods or Scott Horton, or both of them have probably said it a bunch of times, but no matter who you vote for, you always end up with John McCain. Yeah. But literally, if you vote for Nikki Haley, you're going to get a female John McCain.
Yeah. And also, something else I saw that I think is disgusting is there were a bunch of students at Harvard and other schools that took part in anti-Israel protests, right? Or pro-Palestinian protests. Now, you can take umbrage with some of the signs, right? As you said, I don't think you should be saying death to Israelis or cheering on the deaths of Israelis. To your point, I'd rather have no killing here. So that's shameful. But having a protest isn't. Having valid points made about, them essentially holding these people hostage in their own nation and not allowing them entry or exit and all these other things are valid points. Talking about the way the people have been treated, talking about how now 7,000 people in Gaza have been killed. Todd Hagopian had tweeted out, that's more than 9/11 and, two other catastrophes combined easily. You're allowed to point these things out and then not be doxxed, because now there's trucks going around showing people who signed a letter that said that they felt that this was on the, Israel's fault for this constant state. They're going and parking trucks in front of their houses and around campus with their pictures on it, calling them anti-Semites. Now, some people are saying, if you're signing your name to a letter like that publicly, well, then this is what happens. No. You know what? No. That falls under, just because you can doesn't mean you should. It's number one, it's fucking harassment if you're doing that. It is doxing. If you're going and parking in front of somebody's house, that's harassment and doxing. And what do you expect? If you're parking for their house, you're clearly calling on them to be harassed for violence against them. At least I would argue. Or else, why are you parking in front of their house? You're clearly trying to have something happen to them negatively. And for people to cheer this on, if you think this is the way a polite society, an intelligent society handles its problems on a well-funded divisive issue, I hope they fucking park a truck in front of your goddamn house and with your fucking stupid face on it on the next issue that you oppose that happens to fall in between two very well-funded sectors of the populace who happen to disagree. It's insane, and it's disgusting for me to see it. I'm really fired up about it. It fucking pisses me off to no end to see this shit. And the morons cheering it on.
Well, war, I mean, this war expanding and escalating, bringing in other nations, Iran, Hezbollah, Lebanon. It's good, or at least the left and the right both think it's good for them. I think Joe Biden and his regime think it's good for him because if you have a president, if it's a wartime president, you're much more likely to be reelected because, you know, the populace, as the thinking goes, is not normally going to, you know, vote against an incumbent president during a war. But the right, the neoconservative right, they love war. I mean, they don't get enough war. It's you want a war that much? I want a war twice as much as you. You call yourself a warmonger. I'm the biggest warmonger there is. There's not they can't get enough of it. So that's kind of the situation we're in, where they're trying to out warmonger each other.
Yeah. Well, here I just brought up. If you're watching the video, you can see the picture here. In front of someone's house, a truck with a girl's picture on it and her name in front of her fucking house because she dared to sign a letter saying that she thought Israel was responsible for this. Whether that's right or wrong, this response is despicable. So there you go.
And what does it say? Something leading anti-Semites.
Harvard's leading anti-Semites. Yeah. And again, this is doxing truck parks outside of the students' homes. Despicable.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing is just what a freaking mess, man. What a mess. And I talked about on my show on Monday, like there was this article in the Sun that talked about like 6 things that could happen that could legitimately, turn this into World War III. And like half of them were pretty much already there, and the other half, it's pretty likely. It looks like it. Saudi Arabia getting involved.
Yeah.
Iran escalating their backing of Hezbollah and Hamas. I mean, it's the stuff that's probably going to happen. Like the U.S. and U.K. getting involved on the ground. We're almost there. Like,
yep. Good luck. God. Good luck recruiting. Good fucking luck. Any person that's drafted should absolutely refuse to partake. Do not comply. There has to be an end to this. These fucking war pigs and our involvement in this garbage that does not concern us. There was a reel I saw. I'm not gonna be able to find it, but a couple of days ago, it was like a guy our age, probably, maybe a little older, who has kids who are, 18, 20 years old. And he's like, you think that you're going to draft these, 18-year-olds today? You think they're going to go fight in a war? No, they're not going anywhere. Maybe if you set them up with like, some sort of drone technology in their room, they would, fight the war from their bedroom. They're not going to war. No. Do you want these people going to war for you? It was pretty funny. That's pretty good. All right, well, let's get into some fun. I've got 3 memes for you. Do you want to cue yours up, or do you want me to start?
You can go. Okay.
So my first meme. Yeah, I'm ready. My first meme I thought was pretty funny. This is from an account I've become fond of, which is 300 Guns on Instagram. But it's got a guy in black and white, and he's calling on the telephone, an old telephone, and it says, "Hello. People of 2023, have you colonized Mars yet? Do you have flying cars?" And then you scroll down, and he's got a little confused look on his face. He says, "What do you mean you don't know what a woman is?" Which I thought is really fantastic. And to encapsulate how we're going backwards as a society in the efforts to cater to these mad ideas that go against what is accepted biology, accepted truth for thousands of years now. So yeah, Very, very funny. And again, the prioritization of the trans battle over flying fucking cars or the advancement of real science. Very funny.
Well, that's a tremendous lead in for my meme here, because we have, and I forget his name, the former Pennsylvania, whatever, health secretary, and Biden moved her into some role where she's the admiral of something. I don't even know. She's always wearing a uniform. What's her name? I'm totally drawing a blank. Is it Deborah something, or?
It's not Deborah Fauci.
Looks like John McCain with a wig on a little bit.
Deborah. No, it's not Deborah Lower. That's a different one.
Not Deborah.
Fuck. I'll look it up real quick. You keep talking. I'll look it up.
Anyway, it says at the top, it's got a picture of her looking very, very, I don't know, like blah, like nothing. And says, a health reminder to all Democrat women. It's time for your annual prostate check. Don't forget to get that prostate check. Just because.
Dr. Rachel Levine. That's
Rachel Levine.
I
knew it. Yeah.
The name of this person. Matthew Butts weighs in, says, so the Turkey ambassador to the UN speech yesterday shouldn't be ignored. China brokered a peace between Iran and Saudi Arabia and Yemen the other day. I'm thinking Turkey, Iran, and Saudi Arabia team up. Yeah, by the way, I do want to, that's something I was thinking about recently. China, right? That's on the axis of evil now. Don't forget the new China axis of evil with Russia, Iran, and Russia and China. They're out there offering to broker peace deals, which is what the United States used to do. But instead, guess who's becoming more of an actual world power economically and now politically? Oh, China, because China isn't wrapped up in a bunch of fucking allied bullshit and trying to forward wars. They're trying to negotiate the pieces. What's going to get you farther in our situation? Doubling down on empire building and bombing and arming enemies and pushing divisiveness, or actually trying to get the situation calmed down by going to a table and negotiating, which is apparently what China's doing. Which one do you think is going to forward your global ambitions more?
Yeah. Matthew Butts says, "I'm thinking we are the axis of evil." You know, you might not be wrong there.
We are at the dead center. We are not, the. Yeah.
If that's axis, the case, then we're not far from ending up here in train cars. I don't think.
No, the axis spins around us. Okay, my turn. So next one I'll bring up. Another one that not related to Palestine and Israel, but I thought this was great from Declaration of Memes. This is one, and another one which I think about all the time because it's such nonsense. Climate change. We're being told all the time sea levels are rising, that it's going to kill us all, that New Orleans is going to be underwater, and yet also CNN. Here's a 1,000-year-old citadel that shows the sea levels have never been rising. It's literally a castle in the middle of a salt flat ocean that floods and drains regularly. This castle's been there for 1,000 years. It's not underwater. Nothing has changed. Mont St. Michael, or Michel, the 1,000-year-old citadel that rises out of the Atlantic Ocean. Now, to be clear, it doesn't submerge underwater. It maintains itself above the ocean, but the walls the water rises up and goes down on the pre-existing walls for 1,000 years. So there you go. Climate change debunked in one simple picture.
That's just amazing that it hasn't sunken. That's being built on. I'm assuming it's got to be built on rock. I mean, if it's built on
there's got to be bedrock underneath. Yeah, underneath it, and then sand all around it. But it is incredible. I mean, it's gorgeous. And yeah, I've also seen other pictures, by the way, of sea level where it shows the exact same sea level that's just maintained forever.
Yeah, I don't believe that sea level has risen at all in the past 10, 20, 30 years. I mean, when you see erosion on the beach and all this, it doesn't mean the sea levels rise. It means you have erosion on your beach. You know, the tides are changing, and I think it's all bullshit. But speaking of beautiful, as I was saying, we got a just stunning looking AOC hand in hand with Donald Trump, a pregnant AOC. And it says, the one thing the establishment truly fears. That's a pretty ridiculous picture there by AI, I assume, making that.
Yeah. Did a good job. Did he get the fingers right?
It actually looks like Trump looks like pretty spot on. AOC, a little more. The face
Well,
is a little different for sure.
They plumped her face up because she's pregnant.
Yeah, maybe so.
All right, my last meme here is this one does circle back to a recent development. Of course, we mentioned the main shooter, and this is from Vanessa Chase, who posted this, and it says, "There's no reason." It's an angry leftist with the multicolored flags and a vaccine symbol. It says, "There's no reason to own a gun. Think of the children." And then if it's got the base Chad head to the right and a nice MR-15, and it says, "You wanted to take my kids and put me in a camp for being unvaccinated." Yeah, that's a very good reason to own a gun. If they're, and let's not forget, by the way, people like Kamala Harris is out there talking about how Australia bought back the guns mandatorily. And by the way, what a fucking country of pusses for going along with it. I say that as a man who's on Australian radio every week. Why did they go along with this mandatory gun buyback? Shameful. But Australia, notably, also was one of the countries that literally had a concentration camp created for the unvaccinated and made people go to that camp. So there you go. Proof, case in point. Proof's in the pudding.
Yeah, and I mean, a more recent example in Israel, when that terrorist attack did happen at that festival, what if the people there were armed?
Right.
Might have had a chance.
And let's not forget that everybody in Israel is after you hit the age of 18, you need to go. Actually, I can't remember if it's age of 18 or before or after college, whatever it is. But you're forced to do 2 years in the military. So everybody at that festival, by the way, in theory, should have been combat trained. So instead of taking, which Israel forcibly takes the guns back when you leave military service, only the military has guns in Israel. Well, yes, they could have been happily shooting the fucking Hamas animals that were undertaking this terrorist attack out of the air, skeet shooting, if you will, and there would have been far less of a genocide against the.
That'll be a new. What was that Nintendo that had the Duck Hunt game?
Yeah. Hamas Hunt. And then there's a little dog that's like, and you shoot one down.
And then if you get 5, that you actually get like a bowl of hummus.
Yeah.
All right, we got the. This is a common meme. You got the man asleep in bed next to his wife. But we got to change a route here. Instead of a woman, we got Zelensky. And instead of the husband, you got Joe Biden. And Zelensky says, "I bet he's thinking about Israel." And Joe Biden says, "Where am I? Where'd my ice cream go? Corn Pop, is that you?"
Yeah.
Not too far off.
Don't worry, Zelensky. We know that Joe hasn't forgotten about you, though, or whoever writes the bill, since we're now pledging to omnibus bill Israel, Taiwan, as I talked about in my show this week, because the axis of evil now, you have to have Taiwan spending lumped in with Israel spending, lumped in with Ukraine spending, because that's what's going to fund the new war against the axis of evil.
Yeah, because you put it all together, and if you deny it, well, you're an anti-Semite, or you hate Ukraine and you're pro-Russia. Just lump it all together. There's no way out of it.
Yeah, and if you don't want to fund the Taiwanese, well, you're anti-Asian. You hate the Asian peoples. What are you, Harvard? Hating Asians?
Harvard does hate the Asians. I will say that.
They deeply despise the Asians. Well, that's it. I don't got anything else today. Although I will say, not being Ethernet wired in has worked. So is it the Ethernet ports on my shit that are broken? Who's to know?
It might be, actually. I had more trouble with Ethernet when I was doing that than anything else. So I wonder if
I wonder if it's like a fucking shitty Mac, because my Mac, I had to go through a connector, which I never had problems with, to use the Ethernet. Maybe it's that. I don't know. It's such a
that wouldn't surprise me. Could be that.
There's so many variable garbage. It's so frustrating. Anyway, good memeing.
All right. Well, good episode this week. If you guys like this, be sure to subscribe on YouTube and actually watch the memes in real time, in real life. You can see them up on the screen. And make sure you hit the bell on the top to get the notification, or watch on Rumble. We always get a nice little audience live watching our episodes over there. So anything else, Brian?
Just that I was thinking it's funny. I'm railing about all these, life and death, real world issues, wearing a shirt that says send nudes on it. I hope somebody's out there's watching and they're like, God, this send nudes guy's really making a lot of sense.
There's got to be somebody who's saying that. All right. See you next week.
Later.